Hi guys, this is Ekat, and this is where it all started, in the forest when I met a fox face to face while filming a magic video. This is the fox playing cards, and today I'm going to teach you exactly how I release them. Every step, and there are really 4 points to consider. Number 1 is the design. For me, it's a fox. What is it going to be for you? Number 2, it's going to be the production. Who are you going to produce with? Number 3 is the go-to-market campaign. Are you doing a Kickstarter? Are you releasing this by yourself? And number 4 is going to be fulfillment. You need to ship these cards. Are you shipping them, or you're going to trust the company to do it for you? Let's cover these steps in detail. Follow me. Right here should be good. Let's talk about the actual design of your cards. And this process can take you up to a year. What you need to consider is, how are you going to go about the design? Do you have an idea? Do you know what you want to put on the tuck box, on the back card design? Do you want to go with standard faces or with custom faces? These are all things to consider. The way I did it is I saw an amazing illustration from Chris Milankovich of the Fox on Instagram. And I contacted him and I said, I need to buy this fox from you and have all the rights to it, basically. I fell in love with it. It was exactly the vision of the branding that I wanted for my fox. I do have an established relationship with Chris. He sent me a portrait of me, which I've used for layers prior to me collaborating with him on the fox. So I knew his work, and it's exactly my style. So he truly represented my brand. And I love the fact that he's a tattoo artist, and I don't have any tattoos, but if I would, this would be it. I really, really love this design, and that's what I have custom. I have the fox, and I have myself as the Joker. Those are the 2 custom things inside this deck of cards. You may want to go with custom faces. You need to start with the standard playing cards, maybe to start off your design. So in the link below, you'll have a link to download 52 standard playing cards, the faces. Okay, I'm letting you download this thing. They are not exactly the same as Bicycle Standard, because if they were, that would be infringing on their copyright. Now, if you're not going to print with USPCC, they will not just provide you just like that. Here you go, here are our 52 faces. So I first started off with my design of the standard cards with what I have downloaded, but then I went and asked USPCC to replace those faces with their proper faces and change the tones of red to match the red, the blood red of the fox playing cards. So this is something you can do to get inspired and to get started on the faces. If you're going to do a lot of magic with these cards, maybe having a custom face design is not necessarily optimal. What I'm going to add to that link is also the standard die lines. A die line is just basically the frame of where the design has to be when you print. Where does it bleed out? So I'm going to add all the stuff that I have received from USPCC. So you're going to get it all in that WeTransfer link to get you started, so you don't have to go after them and ask them first. So you can get started with that. But any company you're going to reach out to that you're going to work with, that's step number 2, is going to provide you what's called die lines for you to be able to put in your artwork. So for me, once I got the illustrations from Chris, I went ahead and myself went on Photoshop and did a mock-up design of what I wanted, the colors I wanted, and then I went to an agency, a graphic design agency, and I just spent $500 there for them to be able to put it properly. And we had a few back and forths, me and them, but it was very quick. The design part for me was very, very fast. If you want to go a different route, there are a few people that have reached out to me, graphic designers that actually specialize in playing cards design. Like a couple people have reached out to me and quoted me maybe from like $1,500 to $2,000 USD to work on a design like that, or a collaboration where we would, I don't know, share profits, whatever. So I've had those people reach out to me, and I decided not to go that route because I didn't want too many custom items within the design of my deck, and I didn't feel like I needed any more help than a regular graphic design agency. And the other thing that's good about a graphic design agency is that you can just get the work done, but everything belongs to you. When you work with someone who's working on the artwork is their artwork, so you have to be very careful on the rights. Here are your options for producing this deck of cards. Number 1 is USPCC, United States Playing Card Company, which I went with. Now today, February 23rd, is the day where they have a press event in New York City. I was invited, but obviously I didn't go. This is where they really do the merge with Cartamundi, who has acquired, it's a company from Europe. So now the 2 biggest players card manufacturers have merged into one entity. So Cartamundi has purchased USBCC. So you have that one player. They're still operating in those countries where they are. So if you're contacting USBCC, it's USBCC that's going to respond to you, but you have to know that whatever money you're giving it goes to Cartamundi at the end of the day. So I really look forward to see some improvements with that collaboration. It is a bit worrying because it's never a great thing where there's too many big players. You really need small players to come on board, and there are small players. So make playing cards. MPC, I love to use them for gaffs, for any prototype printing. And in fact, you will need to print your prototype if you're going to go towards a Kickstarter campaign, which we'll talk about later. Very, very important that you have a feel of what the deck looks like. And USBCC does not give you a prototype deck of cards. You will receive a sheet that you have to approve, but you will not get the prototype deck of cards. That's very important. So Make Playing Cards is starting to make really, really good quality cards without that minimum of 1,000 decks required. And then there's Legends Playing Cards, whose quality, from the Bitcoin playing cards is getting really, really close to USBCC. And then, of course, Cartamundi, which we mentioned before, and Hansen Shin Productions, which is also very, very close to USBCC quality with now their thinnest stock. Very, very nice cards with the chicken nuggets playing cards. So I really enjoyed that feel. It is still very clear that the best one is going to be USBCC because of that standard quality that we know that they have in their stock. Now you can go and produce these things directly with them, or you can have someone help you do that production. Here are a few ways. So you can go ahead and contact a magic company, submit your design to them, they fall in love with it, and then they release that design as theirs. But you are still the one behind the idea. That could happen. Or you can go ahead and see Art of Play, who will help you from A to Z and will choose the partner to work with, will help you choose the stock, and will oversee all the production, including fulfillment, which we'll talk about later. So that's a way. So you have those two ways. Either you do a partnership with a magic company, or you go ahead and speak to Art of Play, but trust that they just give you a price per deck, per that unit, and that's it. And you let them handle all the hard work. So I went ahead and decided to be independent in all the steps. So my design, my production. So I chose USBCC, and I chose to do all parts of the deck with USBCC. I could have picked Clove Sand Press makes amazing talk boxes. So the boxes are actually cheaper from them than doing it with USBCC. I had a very high cost per unit because I did everything with USBCC. But that is because I had a crunch timeline where I wanted to launch my deck of cards, and I didn't want to wait a little bit longer. And I didn't want to necessarily scale myself to speaking to two different teams. So I went ahead and only worked with USBCC. But Cloves and Press means you need to contact USBCC if you're printing with them. Ask them to just print the deck in a white box, so nothing fancy on the box. There is some rework that is necessary, and that rework also has a cost per unit. What you need to do is look in the description below for all the links of these companies. A lot of them will ask you to decide what stock you're going to go for, how many quantities. There's 1,000, 2,500, 5,000, and then 10,000. And obviously with the notion of economies of scale, what you're going to have is a cheaper deck depending on how many you print. But every single element, whether you have embossing, whether you're printing inside, is going to cost you money. And it's very important because everything adds up. So when you see a deck of cards with no embossing, that box is really not expensive. But as soon as you add these little elements, they consider it a new plate. So they have to really work on that a little bit longer, and it costs them a little bit more. I don't think reprinting costs as much, but I haven't lived through a reprint because I'm not reprinting these cards. I went at the end of the day with 2,500 decks as far as units goes, because a lot of my friends are like, 1,000 is really not a lot, and you're paying so much. You're paying close to $12 for that deck at that point with all the features that I had. So I went and I lowered my cost to $8 Canadian, which is about $5 US, which is still a very, very expensive deck of cards. So meaning I could not do any wholesale. A lot of my friends, and you'll see it in the interview, went in the wholesale route where you can sell to, let's say, the wholesaler Murphy's Magic, and that way you have a bit of a margin for yourself. But because this is $5 US, and you're retailing this for $15 US, the margin after you sell to Murphy's, like for me, it was making like $1. That didn't make any sense. And I didn't want to go the route of having someone else resell my deck of cards. I really wanted to have it contained on my shop. Do your homework. Even if you're going the Kickstarter route, contact all these folks and ask for quotes. Yes, they'll ask you to fill out what I just mentioned, but go ahead and get your quotes. You need to know exactly how much it costs you to produce and how much you're going to retail it for. Now, custom decks do go up to $15. I've seen some at $20 when there's like gold foil inside, but I think $15, like for me, that was the acceptable range because of how much it has cost me to produce this. So you do that homework, and then you can go on Kickstarter and know how to price your levels if you're going to go the Kickstarter route. So let's discuss the go-to market campaigns that you can go for. So I mentioned it again for myself. I already had an e-commerce website through Shopify prepared where I had been selling few items. So that's why it made sense for me to go ahead and self-produce at that time. However, I don't actually recommend anyone to go the route that I went because it was not only extremely expensive, but a big burden to deal with afterwards. And I'll explain all that. I've made a few mistakes and I hope you learn from these things. So I actually recommend to go the Kickstarter route. I think it's the less risk that you're gonna face, but emotionally, it might be more risk because if your Kickstarter campaign fails, you do feel really down, but at the same time, it's better to feel down because your Kickstarter campaign didn't work than feeling down because you're minus $20,000 and in debt. So there's definitely the aspect of eat humble pie if you need to, if it fails, the Kickstarter campaign, but most of the time, it does succeed, okay? And I try to reinforce this to my friends who sometimes, are losing a bit of confidence in their campaign. Like, just keep at it, do this correctly. The great example that I have coming up in the interviews at the end of this video is with Kier, with the Slow Hands playing cards. Really great way of going about it. Not a huge following, but managed to have really strong playing cards review on YouTube. Had created the Instagram for the playing cards and then went and promoted with Kickstarter, partnered with a graphic designer. So it's really, really well done the way that he released it, and Kickstarter was funded. So I'm really, really proud of Kier, and that's how I recommend you guys do this. So make sure to listen to his interview towards the end of this video. Now, the other route I mentioned would be through Murphy's. So you have Murphy's ahead of time, love your design and want to buy some quantities, and then buying those quantities will finance you being able to produce it with whoever you choose to produce with. The way I went go-to-market was not the ideal way. I went in a very busy period where the Jerry Nuggets were funded. A lot of people were spending a lot of money already on custom deck of cards. So my timing was not ideal at all. And it was way too crowded on the market. So you definitely don't want to go ahead and release your cards during a busy time. And I did not secure Red Fox playing cards. And there was another person working on a design Red Fox playing cards, completely different idea, completely different thing, was going to do a Kickstarter later, but managed to get the domain name Red Fox playing cards and an Instagram account, which infringed on what I was doing because I was releasing my deck already. So I spoke to that person, I connected with that person, and through Instagram we had a bit of a chat, and I decided to retrieve the red in front of Red Fox, although anyway, it's Red Fox playing cards or Fox playing cards, I don't really care. But I removed the red to give a shot for that Kickstarter, and I just secured Fox playing cards and Fox playing cards on Instagram. But that I did afterwards. So had I been ahead of time, I would have managed to control my brand and secure those names. But that's a big mistake that I did. So if you have an idea of the name of your playing cards, please secure your stuff by the domain names. Park your name on Instagram or other social media. So that's definitely a recommendation that I have. Learn from my mistakes, people. It's a big mistake, and it cost me that desire to promote further. So I basically didn't do any promotion on Instagram with the fact that I was competing with just another Kickstarter starting. And I didn't feel like I was competing. I don't compete with Kickstarters when I sell on my own. It was just to you guys to start. And the only thing I did is at one point for Black Friday, I did an ad on Instagram, but that's about it. So I did not do any media at all or much hype which makes the Fox playing cards one of the best kept secrets, I think. When you get to producing, in my case, 2,500 units, there's also 10% plus minus, so they always go over then under whatever is the secured amount. So I ended up with 400 units more, so close to 3,000 units. So I have still a leftover of 1,000 cards, 1,000 units, which I keep to myself as my private reserve. And right now, to those who are watching, I give you 20% off that private reserve of mine. So in addition to this, you really receive all of my downloads complimentary. So go ahead to eCat Magic and enter eCat20 at checkout when you go ahead and check out there. Sounds good? Let's get back to point number 4, which is fulfillment. Great, you did a Kickstarter, you have all the names of everyone, all of their addresses, or you sold it yourself, you have all this list. You need to fulfill, you need to ship those things. So do you ship yourself, or do you go ahead and work with a third-party company that's gonna do this for you? Now, Art of Play, again, can take care of this. Even if you didn't start the project with them, they can still go ahead and fulfill cards for you, which is the case for Chris Ramsey's cards. They ship out of Art of Play warehouse. Same thing with Vert's cards. They will ship out of Art of Play warehouse. And I did contact them and ask for a quote to see how much it would cost me. Now, there is another player, which is Gambler's Warehouse. And a lot of my friends are always also using those guys, which could be even cheaper sometimes than Art of Play. So you have to go ahead again, do your homework, ask for quotes. How much does it cost to ship with you? Because all of those options will be cheaper than you shipping it yourself. And why did I decide to ship myself? Well, because I wanted to control that full experience. Again, I'm a bit of a control freak with this deck of cards. That's why I have such an emotional attachment to this deck as well, is because it's like A to Z my hard work of packing the boxes for you guys and making sure to like include a note or include something special or include a few gaffs or include something. Like I always want to have that flexibility and make sure it's like 100% customer satisfaction with you guys. So I knew that I wouldn't be able to give you that if I went with a third party, but that means my time. And if you think about it, your performer is your time. Like what's worth more, an hour of you performing or an hour of you assembling packages? Obviously you make more money performing, but in this case, again, it's a bit of eating humble pie at any point. Like you have to go ahead and do the packages and send them out on time. And if there's a problem, and there's always sometimes a problem or shipment doesn't get there, whatnot, you need to be ready to provide customer service as well. So those are your options. It seems complicated, but I don't think it is. And I really hope there are more smaller players that come on the market, because the more there are smaller players, the more we can compete on getting the best stock quality and getting those minimum quantities down without getting the price super high per unit. Will I be printing a new deck of cards? At this point, I don't think so, because I'm so happy with the first one that I did, and I still have a really nice lifetime supply. But it's still back in my mind. It's still something that I think if the minimum quantities go down, I'd be interested to explore further. But I want you to listen to the 2 interviews. So one with Kier, like I mentioned before, and then one with Derek from Paradigm Playing Card Project. And he has more projects in the works that I cannot wait to hear about. It's been quite a nice ride, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you found this content useful, make sure to leave a thumbs up. We've been freezing here in the forest to film this for you. And I'll see you guys in the next one. So can you tell me a little bit about the concept first in short, and then how long it took you to get to that concept, and then how you went about going on Kickstarter?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, thanks for having me. The slow hands playing cards is actually, so I came up with the idea for the deck like 3 years ago, probably. Mm-hmm. Maybe a little bit more than 3 years ago, and I wanted to do like a vintage bicycle style playing card, almost like the Keepers, just with something a little bit more personal to me.
Right.
So I can't draw. I'm not very good at design. I don't know how to use Photoshop. So I just kind of had this idea of what I would want it to look like for a couple years. And then eventually I was working with Nick Nisko, who just launched Elemental playing cards last year.
Yeah.
So he's kind of a new player, and he's pretty good at design. And I really like fell in love with the way that he went about designing like court cards. I liked that he kind of had this old like Dan and Dave style, designs, whatever. So I was lucky enough to get to work with him on a couple things for his Kickstarter. And I just mentioned to him one day, I was kind of like, trying to plant the seed of seeing what it would be like to work with him. So I mentioned like it would be cool to work on something together, go in on a deck, kind of, collab on something. And he asked me if I had any ideas. I shared the idea for Slow Hands. And looks like our connection got lost.
Oh, can you see? Okay, I can still see you. Still good?
Are you back?
I can see you. Can you hear me?
I can now, yeah.
Okay, weird. All right, well, back. So you were saying collaboration?
Yeah, so finally, I asked him to collaborate. He asked me what ideas I had. I shared the idea for Slow Hands with him, and then like the next day, he started sending me drafts of ideas that he was having for a back design.
Nice.
And then it took from there, like once we decided we were going to do it, it took probably like 3 months until we were happy with
the design,
back design, and then probably like another month for the face cards.
Okay.
So it was like a 4-month project, and we knew the whole time it was going to go to Kickstarter. That was going to be the plan. We're both relatively small in terms of popularity, so rather than funding our own project and risking everything, we figured Kickstarter would probably be a good first move.
However, I've seen a lot of photos already out on social media. Did you print some of the decks before? Like
no, those are prototypes.
Prototypes, even the box?
Yeah,
okay, so you went ahead. Was it make playing cards? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. Which actually, I don't know if you've tried any of their decks on their new beta finish. Their new prototype stock or whatever feels really, really good. So it helps with things like, like for any trailer or content that we do, it helps because you can fan the deck. It almost functions like a regular deck. So printed like a half brick and just sent them out to some people.
Okay.
So
cool.
that's where we were getting the content from.
Okay. Got it. So you're pretty close now on Kickstarter. So the way that it works with you and your designer is basically you guys are well, first, I don't think you make too much money on a playing card project, but you have a deal, I guess, between the two that you guys are splitting. He did the design. Like, how does that work? If someone were to collaborate with a designer, do they expect to I guess, split the sales?
Well, I think it depends on the designer. So, like, for Nick, being like me and him, I think we just decided we would split whatever was left over after the campaign and put it right into the next one.
Okay.
But I think typically, I mean, if I were to contact, maybe a more well-known designer, somebody that's got a little bit more successful decks under their belt, I would imagine it'd probably just be like an upfront cost.
Yeah.
Would be my guess.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I didn't really I would have paid him for sure. I love his work, but I think we hit it off, and he appreciated that I was reviewing his decks on my channel and that I had things to say. And I think out of that, I was lucky enough that he didn't ask me to pay him. So
okay, cool. So it's not the last deck of cards. That's another cool topic. All right, I know we're running a bit out of time together, but if you had one thing that you wanted to give as an advice to someone who wants to print their own custom deck of cards, what would it be? For instance, it's just, save your money and just go and print yourself some prototypes which are almost as good, or is it go for it, don't be scared, try a Kickstarter?
I would say there's so much advice I could give somebody at this point, but I think the key is not to rush it and to find a time when going to Kickstarter is smart. So not around the holidays, not when Mint V3 is coming out, or the Parlor, So not to compete with the people that are definitely gonna make their Kickstarters super successful, and kind of wait until it's calm and then.
That's a great advice. That's a great advice. Cool. Thank you so much. So Derek, I don't know if folks know you on my channel. I mean, I have reviewed your deck of cards, Paradigm. Maybe you can tell me a little bit more about yourself and your deck of cards.
All right. Let's see. Where do I start? I've been into Magic since, I've seen David Copperfield back when I was like 11 years old, which was about 25 years ago when he did his Unexplained Forces tour. Always had a fascination with it. Never really did it full time, kind of dabbled here and there. Picked it up, every couple of years and whatnot. I just got back into it full time probably about 3-4 years ago.
Okay.
I just, some about it just hit me, and I never looked back. About a year and a half ago, I decided I wanted to make my own deck of cards. And
oh wow, a year and a half ago.
It was, I wanted to make a deck of cards that kind of, so much so you see people putting out cards, and they're beautiful, of course, but even though they're aimed at cardistry, I wanted to kind of take a different approach. I wanted to design a deck that was made for certain flourishes, certain spreads, certain cuts, certain, just everything. Not that other decks don't kind of accompany that, look, but it was just, I just wanted more to it. So I started doing it, seeing as that I didn't have any kind of, programs and whatnot to do it. At the time, I was really good friends with Daniel Snyder from Black Roses. He did the orbits, of course. He helped me with it. So he did, he's really great at court cards and other things as well. But so I kind of, told him, hey, in your spare time, can you help me with the deck? And he said, of course, I don't mind that. He had other projects going on. He said when he gets to it, he gets to it. Perfectly fine. Well, it just so happens that at the same time, I was actually speaking to Luke Wadey, who also does the Mono X, Mono Zeros, Grid series. So he actually helped me do the back design as far as the digital. So the best way I can describe it is, and actually this is Luke saying this, is I kind of had the recipe, and Daniel and him were like the oven and the cooking utensils, because I didn't have it. I just knew the recipe. And it was up to them. I mean, I drew everything by hand on a card. I'm like, this is what I want. And they're like, okay, I guess. So it kind of went from there, and it just slowly graduated up to what it became. And there was a lot of different things, different colorways, slight changes, and the paradigm slowly came to be.
So this whole process of design, how much did that take? And then how much did the production take?
So after coming to a final design, pretty much, like I said, it took about a year and a half from start to finish.
Okay.
So like I said, I drew it down and everything like that. By the time, like I said, about a year and a half, I think it came to it, and it was ready to go. It was off to USPCC, and that was it. So.
Cool. And then the way that you funded the deck of cards, because there's different ways. I mean, there's Kickstarter. Some folks are just doing, like Chris Ramsey, he would just do it himself, put the money up front, print a ton of decks, and then sell them themselves. In your case, you collaborated with Murphy's. Can you tell me more about that?
I wouldn't really call it a collab. It was more, I guess in ways. So basically what happened was, from talking with Daniel, he was able to, he was in talks with a couple people at Murphy's because of how many decks he's put out. And he said, hey, his last deck that he had put out around that time, I believe, was the Polyantha deck. And he's like, I didn't have to do a Kickstarter for once. Like, it was great. They just purchased enough to where I was able to print the deck, and boom. And I said, well, that's a great idea. I said, I'll try it. You know, what's the worst they say? No? Cool. So, and it wasn't that I didn't want to do a Kickstarter, but I know that there's a lot of things that come with Kickstarters. So I said, I'll try it. So he gave me his contact at Murphy's, really nice lady by the name of Joanna. I still actually talk to her to this day. She's probably one of the select few that I do still talk to, but that's for another day. So I reached out to her. I said, this is an idea I have. This is what I want to do. The deck's done. Like, is this something you guys want to, help me bring to life? And she got back to me. She said, yeah. She gave me a number. This is what we'll buy. I said, that'll fund the deck. And we went from there. And at the end of the day, I didn't make no money off this project. I probably lost money, to be honest. Actually, I know I did, because of shipping and stuff like that. But it wasn't about that. And I'm not trying to come off like one of these, like, oh, it was just, I wanted to give something to the community. I mean, Jeremy Griffith, I sent him 7 bricks for one of his Monday night jams. Great guy. I've sent cards everywhere across the earth. I mean, Daniel Madison, little reviewers, guys that have 100, subscribers or less, because I wanted to, it was about giving back for me. And I know you're the same way. It's just, for me, now my next release is going to be more aimed towards like a Magic style deck, and I'm putting a lot more effort. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of criticism I have along my deck as well. Now that I'm seeing it from what it is after it's been printed, there's a lot of changes I would go back and change.
But
and I'm just,
I feel a bit the same way also. There are things that I could have done better myself too. Like, it's like always in retrospect, you look at it, you can always do better, but you have a certain deadline also when you cannot wait 10 years to release something. Sometimes like done is better than perfect at some point, but yeah, always it's also about design, right? So anything that has to do with design is always going to be a subjective opinion at the end of the day also. So as you work on a project like this for yourself, you have to be ready to take some people who will criticize the deck and the design and everything basically.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and I've seen it, all across. I've seen enormous support for the deck, and I've seen people bash it. I mean, to the ground on different forums and stuff like that, saying, "Oh, I could create this in 30 minutes on Microsoft Paint," and it's like, you kind of just take it, like a grain of salt, and just brush it off and know it's expected, and just keep it moving. At the end of the day, it's nothing. Everybody has their own opinions, like you said, and it's going to happen.
And so from what I'm hearing, this is not necessarily discouraging to you. You would go after another deck of cards, another custom deck of cards? Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, for sure. I'm working on two different things right now. I'm working on, like I said, my next deck is going to be more aimed towards the Magic community, more standard, standard faces, standard courts, aces, the whole nine. Really nice, elegant, minimal back design. Just something nice, just to get, like I said, just something more aimed towards the close-up guys and, whatever. Nothing flashy. Not that I don't love the cardistry world, because I do. And I don't even know how to do cardistry. I'm trying to learn. But
we'll work on that. We'll work on that there. Okay.
Right.